What's up, everybody? Your boy Rashid Williams here. We are here, and I'm super excited to be here and in the Mapex Legacy Series, where we are talking to some of the most amazing drummers in the industry of drums that have a great relationship and running with the Mapex brand and with the drums that allow us all to do our jobs. The one and only, like no other, Mr. Mitch Marine. Mitch, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Rashid.
Let's get into it because I want you to share how your journey with Mapex began. I think that's something that's really special to talk about.
In 1997, I got a phone call from Josh Touchton and Greg Bissonette, and it's kind of the phone call that a drummer kind of dreams about when you're a kid. Is like you get the phone call from one of the greatest drummers that ever lived, Greg Bissonette, and somebody that was a fan of yours that you really weren't aware of, who's in the position to help your career along, saying, "Hey, I really like the way you play. I really like your attitude. I really like what you bring. And I think you'd be a great addition to the Mapex team." That happened in 97. And I asked them to send me a drum set, the best one they had, and the hardware. I said, if I like it, I'm in. They sent it to me, and it was at the time, it's called the Classic Orion Classic Series, the Maple Classic. And it was a very thin shell, no reinforcement hoops. And it was just a natural finish. It was pretty, but it sounded great. And the hardware was amazing. I was just like, holy crap, this is really a great drum set. And I get the backing of Greg Bissonette and Josh Touchton and the Mapex company. I mean, it's not always about just getting free stuff. Sometimes, that's nice. Who doesn't like free stuff? But it's really not all about that. It's about like connecting, like we talked about at the very beginning, connecting with the company, connecting with the people, connecting with the vision, connecting with what we're trying to be included in, and like, hey, we're trying to do something with the brand, and we think you can help. That's an honor. So that's how it started. And at the time, I was playing with a band called Tripping Daisy, and we were about to go out on tour, but that kind of fell apart. And so at the time, I was kind of bummed out, and I called Josh. I said, well, I don't know what you want to do. I'm not going to be out on tour with Tripping Daisy. I'll be doing, local shows and, working in town and stuff. In town was the Dallas Fort Worth area at the time, 97. And he said, no, we didn't get you for Tripping Daisy. Something will come up. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Just keep playing, and we'll be behind you no matter what. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And in 1999, I got the gig with Smash Mouth and was out on the road with them for 2 years playing. We got a new kit, and he covered it in white satin flame, which is what I've been using for the last 12 years with Dwight, is a white satin flame, a Saturn kit. The kit I had with Smash Mouth was another Orion Classic that we wrapped in a white satin flame. And I've been playing them and loving them ever since, and loving the company and loving. I mean, it's been a journey.
Yeah,
mostly
sure.
mostly ups, couple downs. But I mean, it's a young company. When I joined in '97, I think the first time I saw Mapex at a NAMM show was in '92. So that was and they at the time were just kind of mid-tier drums with some pretty heavy artists. Terry Bozzio, Cobham was Billy Cobham was, I think, was in Dorsey, and maybe. Well, anyway, at least I'm pretty sure those two guys were.
Yeah.
And so I remember seeing them, and then going to the booth at NAMM. And for those people that aren't familiar with NAMM, that's the National Association of Music Merchants, which is a big trade show that happens in January that all of us lucky musicians, not all, the lucky ones of us, the fortunate ones of us, get to go to. And it's like, man, oh man, it's like Guitar Center on steroids.
Yeah,
It's
it's a pretty wild thing, that NAM show that we
it's
all
a lot
love.
of fun.
You
It's a
know,
lot of fun. But anyway,
keep your hand sanitizer close by when you're going to.
yes. So at the time, the Mapex stuff was pretty good, but it wasn't a top level, top tier. We're gonna take on Sonar type stuff. So when it came to me in '97, I was like, I'm in, and I've been in ever since. I'm currently playing a Saturn kit that's 12 years old, 13 years old, and I'm not changing because my the artist I work with, Dwight Yoakam, loves it. We use it
Yeah.
in the studio. The last two records have been used in the studio, so it's his drum set that he loves. It's like we're not changing. It sounds great.
Yeah.
Why would we?
And you
Yeah,
know what's
there's
crazy? It's an interesting thing, Mitch, because as you're saying this, what I'm getting, and I'm, you tell folks in the drum industry, you say, hey, I love Mapex drums, and I don't think people realize how much of a journey the brand has been on, and how many levels this company has really grown. And it's really cool to hear, because that's something that I always boast about Mapex. I always say, yo, they're always looking to push some limits and grow beyond where they are. So it's really refreshing to hear you say that from a 92 to 97, right? Like 92, you walk into NAM, you say, hey, cool, I got some friends that play these drums and some drummers that are cool that play these drums, but just not there. 97, you come back and somebody says, hey man, we want you to play the drums, and you get a kit and you say, hey, this is so good that I'm willing to change the direction of what I'm doing and play these drums, man. And I think that's a really great testament to the folks at Mapex and at KHS America as a whole, where they're always about pushing these limits. And that's something I've been able to see, and you just said you'd be able to see. And that's cool. Now, something you also said is that you've been playing the Saturn kit for 12 years. I want to know more about the Saturn kit. What are the sizes? Tell me about the Saturn kit.
Well, let's go back a second because I want to continue the story on levels of growth. So when I first got the drum sets, the classic, the Orion Classic, like I said, it was a pretty drum set, but it wasn't like it didn't have all the colors and the paint and the lacquers and a lot of finishes. There weren't a lot of choices, and they started kind of growing. Then they came in with a bird's eye maple, and then about 10 years later, all of a sudden they started coming out with lacquer finishes. I'm pretty sure there was a new factory or a new painting process or something happened, and it was another notch, another level where. So you would go to a NAM show. I would go to a NAM show, and you would just see that Mapex was working it every year, and then there'd be this year that all of a sudden it would be boom, and all the excitement would be around the Mapex. Yes, Tama's over there. Yes, Ludwig's over there. Yes, but there'd be a lot of buzz and excitement about the new gear that came out. So about 10 years, maybe about 8 or 9 years later, Mapex came out with some amazing lacquer finishes across the board. And 10 years after that, so that would have been about in 2017. When did the designer series come out?
Design Lab came, what was that,
Design
2019?
Lab.
It was pre-COVID. I think it was 2018.
Yeah. So then the Design Lab came out, and basically at that point, with the designs of the drums and the designs of the hardware, and it was just basically saying to me, it was like Mapex has arrived. There's really no reason for anybody to hold their nose any longer about Mapex. And believe me, the music I play and the artists and drummers that the shows that I play and that open up for us, it could be a lot of drum snobs, especially in my world. If it's not an old Ludwig or an old Slingerland or an old Gretsch, you're like, whatever, dude. I'm like, well, just listen to my drums and then we can talk. Just in fact, come back here and sit and you play them and we'll talk. And It never fails. It never fails. They're like, God, these things sound great. I'm like, yes, they do. Thank you very much. Stop listening with your eyes. You
Yeah.
know, just
That's the interesting thing because I think all the drummers do it. I've seen drummers that will remain nameless for sake of this call play my kit the same way, man. And I had a guy once, he's a very well known drummer, and he showed up at this random place when I lived in Florida. And I had gotten that particular establishment to buy a Saturn Evolution kit, even though I was just helping the guys out with the production. And a very well known drummer came in and he said, they didn't get my writer. And I was like, oh, I know, man. I saw the writer. I was like, but we got a Saturn Evolution kit. It's brand new. Like, you're going to love it. I promise. He goes, nah. They got to figure this out. They got to get my drums. And I was like, hey, man, I can do everything I can. I'm going to make some calls and see if we can get the kit that you want here. I said, but I would be very, very, very pressed to tell you, just at least sit back there and see if you can make it work. And like every drummer does, right? You're not going to say, I'm not going to play the gig because you got to make your money. So he finally gets to the point where he's like, man, we're running out of time. And I said, yo, I'm telling you, we know each other, right? Like, just trust me, go sit behind the kit. He sat behind that drum kit. They had an incredible show in which, after the show, he came to me and said, yo, that's a Mapex kit? I said, yeah, that's what it is. I said, yeah, you just did a whole show. You sounded great, by the way. I was out here listening the whole time. And he was like, man, I've never felt resonance quite like that. And that was when I said, people got to stop judging by what they see. To your point, Mitch, it's like you got to really just get in it and do it. And I think that's what we all have done, right? You had an opportunity where somebody said, hey, I want you to play the drums and just tell me what you think. You played the drums and you said, wait a minute, there's something here. And all these years later, now you're doing it to other guys. And I think that's pretty cool. So you're in the studio now. The drums are in the studio. Design Lab, I think, was a great stop. But I still want to go back to this because even though you played all these kits in the studio, because your discography is incredible, for all the guys out there and girls out there who really want to see some work, look up the Mitch Marine discography. I looked it up myself and I was like, wow, this is cool because there's so many songs in there that I've heard before. And I was like, I didn't know that was Mitch on drums, right? So everybody out there, make sure you go check that out because it is a lesson. It is a classroom session that you need to do. So the thing is, you're playing this Saturn kit and I want to know if you can even pinpoint it, even with all these other drums that are coming out. And we know Mapex recently we just got the Saturn 6, right? Like we're deep into Saturn land. What is it about that original Saturn kit that you feel like it's just pulling you back to that and saying, yo, my drums are good. I'm going to keep playing these drums, especially in the studio. What's that thing, if you can put that into words?
It's really hard to explain, but I will just say, here's what happened. This is just my life, is that I've had these drums with Dwight for the last 12 years at least. And we had like 2 months off and we've never taken them out of the cases and off of the truck and out of the storage unit and took them apart and just went over them to make sure everything was great and put brand new, just go over everything, clean everything, make sure the edges are fine, make sure there's no damage anywhere, just because they always sounded great. So there's nothing to worry about, but we had time off. So let's do this.
Right.
And so we took them all apart, went to a friend of mine's place and we went through them and he and two other drummers came by and they were like, oh, these things just sound amazing. And it's just like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. For me and for mine. I mean, so the drum heads that I'm using currently right now on top is coated vintage Emperor, which is a slightly thicker Emperor skin than the regular Emperor. So it's fairly thick on top. The 12-inch tom has clear ambassador, but the 14 and 16 have coated ambassadors. The resonance in these drums is so intense and so if you put just ambassadors top and bottom, especially clear ones, I mean, I love them, and a lot of guys would love them, but my front of house guy would be, come on, man, help me out a little bit here. And they sound wonderful. We put just a little bit of moon gel on the heads just to maybe get a little bit more stick presence out of the initial hit. And but it still rings. I mean, the resonance is amazing. The drums are great. They sound wonderful. I just, and again, Dwight loves them, and he's got Gretsch kits and Ludwig kits, and I mean, I've got other drum sets too, but these sound great. Why are we messing around? This is this sound that Dwight likes, and this is what it is. And that's the thing that it's not just drummers, If you have a singer-songwriter, legendary singer-songwriter, what some might say, that loves the drums. I mean, what I don't know. It's so again, like I said, it's one thing for drummers to geek out, but it's another thing for the artist who says, "I like the way this makes me sing. Might make me sing. I love the way it makes me dance." And we're not changing.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible thing too, because I mean, we all kind of experience this gigging world where we have to make do. It's our livelihood. We got to make money. We got to work. And I think that there are gigs, and you've done the legendary gigs, man. There are gigs where you walk in the door and the artist says, "Hey, this is the sound I want. That's what you got to play. That's what I want to hear. That's what I need you to do." I think it's cool when drummers like yourself walk into the room and say, "Hey, check these out. This is my sound. This is what this thing is, and I promise you it's going to be great." And then you get these legendary artists who are like, "Yeah, of all the other drum kits I have, play your Saturn kit. Like, that's the one I want to hear. Play that Saturn kit." I can't say enough that just goes to show the level of dedication that Mapex has put into making sure that these drums evolve and that these drums hold the character that we kind of look for. And my other question is, while you're recording, what genre are you mainly recording, and what other genres have you felt kind of crept in while still using the same kit? Because that's something that becomes a thing. I know for myself, I'm like, I love the fact that I can use one drum kit and get all the sounds that I want. Was that the same situation for you? Are we crossing genres here with this Saturn kit that's still in the studio?
Not really. I mean, it could. Again, I could easily grab a 10-inch. So I have a deep forest walnut kit,
Ooh.
and I've got the original deep forest. So that was like, I'm looking at my notes. Sorry, but that was like around 2007.
Wow.
So again, for the legacy people that are interested, Deep Forest was a series that Mapex came out that had a cherry wood drum set and a walnut kit. And again, super thin shells, no lacquer, wax. There's nothing to keep it from resonating. And I use that. I have the Ambassador has on, and it's a 10, 12, 14, 16.
Hmm.
So it's kind of set up more for high resonance with ambassador heads, clear ambassador heads, top and bottom, to get that super resonant sound. So, and the walnut and the Saturn kit are really close. The Saturn kit has a little bit of maple inside there as well. But so my other kit is a Saturn II Black Cherry Sparkle. With Dwight, it's a Saturn II. Here's the thing with Dwight, I've gone through gold glass glitter, pink glass glitter, turquoise glass glitter, blue marine pearl, white ripple. I've had like 6 or 7 different drum sets leading up to the Saturn kit, and then we just pretty much got to the Saturn kit, and it would just stayed. And I just can't say enough about how much I think this. And who else has a walnut maple kit? I mean, maybe they started doing that at some point, but I mean, without a doubt, it's a there aren't very many drum set companies that have that combination, and they just sound great. But I
Yeah,
keep
that
saying
that that shell combination has always been a favorite of mine and so many others. I think that talking about the hybrid shell of that maple walnut, that is part of the legacy of Mapex, because I've seen drum sets, and like you've seen drum sets, and it's funny when you ask somebody like, hey man, it's like drummer talk, right? We all geek out over like, what kind of wood is the shells, and you do that whole thing, and you hear so many different kinds of wood. Oh my God. Like going, like you said, NAM is when it all happens, right? Like everybody wants to ask this surgical question. Oh man, what's the shell combination? And it's interesting to see that the Saturn walnut, I'm sorry, the Saturn maple walnut hybrid shell has been a staple for Mapex for a really long time. And yet, that's still the topic of conversation at every NAM show, every single time. Even when the Design Lab came out, the like that whole span of time, the Orion series from way back when, we still always go back to, hey man, but what's the newest Saturn kit now? Is it still the same hybrid shell combination? And the answer is always yes. And I think that people who are drummers and just friends of drummers, when they sit and they hear that combination, I think it's just something so special. Something so special. So yeah, man, I think we all have that in common. And that's something that I can honestly say is really cool to hear that we have in common. I
Yeah,
would also love to know about your snare drums. Were you deep into like Black Panther land? Are we, because you mentioned Deep Forest Kit, which I know those stock snares, no, you did can't really say much about them because they're amazing. And I always say if somebody still has a Deep Forest Kit, and I'm assuming you're saying the Cherry, was that the one with the gold hardware on it?
mine was the walnut,
Oh,
so
you
it
have
had the darker hardware.
nice, nice, still a beautiful drum set.
It's
But were
absolutely
you
gorgeous.
Oh yeah, were you big on the Black Panther snare drums? Was that a thing for you?
The Saturn snare drum sounds amazing. That's what I use. I mean,
I love it.
and
I
and
love it.
the walnut snare drum is amazing. I've got a few different. I got a cherry Black Panther. I've got a couple metal Black Panthers. Those are in the studio, like all the snare drums and those drum sets just kind of stay in a studio that I have that a friend of mine has, and he has a beautiful room, and he didn't have any drum sets, and I've got drum sets and not a beautiful room. So I was like,
How do
let's
we make
work
this work? I'll
together.
bring my drum sets into your beautiful
Let's
room.
work together on this
I,
situation,
I totally get
and
it.
and it works out really well because I mean, it is it is nice to have choices, but I mean, this is just what I tell people when someone's they're on the fence about buying a Mapex drum set. I'm like, when you get the Mapex drum set with the snare drum, it sounds amazing. We had a Pro M series that the snare drum came with it. Dwight used that on a few cuts on way long time ago, but he really liked the way that snare sounded, so he came in with Gretsch snare drums and Ludwig, Black Beauties, and just the usual things that producers want to see, and I mean that they want to see it. They aren't necessarily listening as much as they are like, well, what are you playing out there? You got to
Yeah.
tell them, and they got to be like, oh, that's cool, And if I told them, hey, Dwight's the one guy that's like, well, I like that snare drum, and if I went, Dwight, that's that's just the medium level Mapex, he would go, I don't care. I like the way it sounds. Play it.
Yeah.
He's that guy. He's that guy for sure. So I mean, you just can't go wrong with the Saturn snare drum. It just sounds amazing. They're great.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, and I agree with you. You kind of can't go wrong with the Saturn series in general. I think that it's once again that maple walnut hybrid shell is the staple, man. Like it's what actually drew me to like developing my sound. And I think that most of us, when we talk about the Saturn series and that shell combination and just that overall just craftsmanship of how those drums are made, I think that we all just kind of agree there. But that's dope. I think it's cool that you played the Saturn there too. I think that that's super cool because it's like I get it. Like you said, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
I mean, I think it always also goes back to like what a company provides the consumer. I think that's really important. I mean, I'm a little idealistic maybe with that, but that's part of why I've been with the company since '97 and didn't leave. Is I just always felt like Mapex offered the consumer an amazing product at an amazing price point, and if you're going to spend $600, what are you going to get with Mapex? If you're going to spend $1,200, what are you going to get with Mapex? If you spend $2,200, what are you going to get with Mapex? And you compare that to everybody else, and your $2,200 isn't going to go anywhere near as far at the other companies. It just won't.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about drums that are high quality, and the fact that, like I said, and I mean, it goes without saying, based on your journey, and you name some big, heavy hitting drum kits, man, and those drum kits on a vintage level go for thousands of dollars. I think it is very cool for the consumer to be able to get something. And I always say, I'm big on the younger generation, and I'm like, man, you guys have the opportunity to save up your gig money. And I'll say this to anybody: save up your gig money, and when you get that hard-earned gig money, you don't have to save $10,000 to buy an amazing top-tier drum set. Like you said, you can say, man, I got $600, and you can go buy something really great with $600. You can say, I got $2,200, and you can go buy something really great, and it'll be better in sound, feel, and price than so many other options, man. So I think that that's cool to highlight that, and I appreciate you highlighting that because that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I had a drum student just a few years ago was doing exactly what you were saying because he had a drum set that was average, wasn't a Mapex, but it was just his average kit, and he kept looking at different things. And I said, man, he was looking at the Meridian. I'm like, you're a great drum set, but man, why don't you hold out and just play a few more gigs, save up your money, and get yourself. He found the white Saturn with the black hardware. I don't know if that was a 4 or a 5
Yeah,
Saturn kit.
that was a four.
It was a cosmic white, or just a super. It was a pretty intense white with the black hardware. It was beautiful, beautiful drum set. And then for Christmas, he gave himself a Christmas present, sent me pictures of it, and was just over the moon. Just like he just loved that drum set. And that's nice to see. But again, I've had beginning students, and I'm like, just get, that the beginning drum set because Mapex at the time when a couple students of mine, I'm like, get that drum set because it comes with cymbals. You're done. There's a drum throne. There are cymbals. You're in. You get to start playing as soon as that drum set comes home. You
Yeah,
don't have to because there's nothing worse than talking to a parent who doesn't know any better to go, well, there's that drum set, but wait, that's not all you got to spend. Well, you mean I'm not done after $500? No, you're not done. Now you got to go get cymbals. Like, well, what is, oh my God. And then there's a cymbal pack. You got to get that. But wait, you're not done. It didn't come with a drum throne. What do you mean it didn't come? Like, what is he supposed to sit on? It's just, again, Mapex is thinking about the quality of the purchase for a young student, which is really the parents. It's like, why are you killing the parents on this? And Mapex offers drum sets with smaller bass drums so little kids can get in and play instead of here's a 22-inch kick drum with a rack tom that's 13 by 20 and the little kid is like, and a parent is like, well, what? Well, God dang it. Now I spent all this money and you got to have the parents on the side of
yeah,
of the kid. If you can't have the parent isn't getting into it, they're the first to go. Like, no, I'm done with drum sets.
yeah.
Figure something else out. And you can't have that.
Which, yeah, I totally agree, and I think that it's amazing to see that everybody notices that. You know what I mean? That's something that makes me feel so warm and happy because I'm like, no, this is really something that has been a legacy point for the company. The brand has done a great job at the same thing for a really long time. So now I would like, because I mean, you have so much wisdom because your career is so dope. I want you to give some wisdom in sense of dealing with the company, right? Henry, this is where Henry, he gets all the crazy phone calls. But I would love for you to speak to the drummers out there and give them some advice on so let's say for the guy who they picked Mapex as the company that they feel most drawn to. These are the drums I want to play for the rest of my life, and these are the drums I want to sit on. What advice do you give to those guys in terms of how to deal with Mapex and just overall how to deal with being an endorsed artist on any company? We're always saying it should be Mapex, but an endorsed artist on any company. What advice would you give to these guys and these young drummers?
I would, okay, I'll just give you my journey. And so in the late 80s, like maybe 87 or 88 or something like that, I'd made a few records that were doing okay with a band called Brave Combo. And this was years ago. It's kind of world music ish. And that was fairly popular in the underground world. That was fairly popular. And so we were touring Europe, and that's why I was with Sonar, because I was touring Europe a lot, and it was easy to get a Sonar drum set.
Makes sense.
But the Sonar, so basically how it worked for me was that when I was in late '80s, I was waffling between a Yamaha custom series kit or a Sonar kit, and the drum store in Dallas Fort Worth, Chuck's Drum Shop, he said, "Look, I'll get you if you get this Sonar Signature Series kit." It was Macassar, Ebony Macassar. It was beautiful. Oh my God, it was beautiful. It was absolutely gorgeous drum set. I just loved it. But then I loved the red Yamahas too, and the black Yamahas. I was just like, holy shit, those are great. Anyway, God, I love drums. So anyway, um,
I love
it's, it's terrible. It's terrible. So anyway, he goes, I'll help you get a deal with Sonar. You can get them at like, I think 60% off or 50% off. Something was a really incredible deal, and you'll have an endorsement. And so when you go to Europe, you can ask for Sonar to help get you drum set for all your gigs in Europe. You don't have to carry anything. So I chose that. And then once I had a relationship, and I kind of knew that basically there are tiers of what level are you as a drummer? Are you at the time there wasn't internet, there wasn't everything else, so how you were gauged was like, well, how many people are coming to your shows? How many records are being sold? That kind of thing. And so I was at a tier where I was touring, so people were seeing me play. We were playing anywhere from 300 people to a festival with 1,500 people. So, okay, that's pretty decent. Records that are, selling 15, 20,000. Okay, so that doesn't suck. You're at a level where we won't give you anything, but you can buy it from us at a deep discount, and we'll support you when things go wrong or things happen or whatever. And so once I realized that, I was able to reach out to other companies. So I always wanted to play Zildjian. So I reached out to Zildjian first, but was turned down by Zildjian. I just wasn't right for them or ready for them or whatever was the deal. And I didn't get all butthurt about it. I was just like, okay. And so I reached out to Sabian, and it turned out that Sabian had a Christmas record that I would played with, and they had it at the Christmas party. So they were like, yeah, we love you. You'd be great. Why don't you come on and join us? And what I learned was that I combined the relationship. Okay, so it's relationship with like, okay, let me do a deep dive in Sabian. It's like, well, shit, their cymbals sound great. I loved K's by Zildjian, but they've got HHs. And what Sabian was willing to do, and what great companies will do, is like, Well, why don't you send us your zildjians that you really would like to find, and we'll make one for you. We'll make one, and so they made me a couple cymbals that were like the 22-inch K ride that I just really loved. I couldn't find, I mean, so basically the relationship would turn me into like, well, I love Sabian, and I've been with them since '89 or '90 or '88 or whatever it's been, and then as my career grew, therefore when I got with Smash Mouth and started doing MTV shows and big concerts in Madison Square Gardens, they were like, "You need new cymbals." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And they're like, "Here, what do you want?" But I was I deserved it not because I'm like a great player. I deserved it because I'm presenting these drums to 10,000 or cymbals to 10,000, 15,000 people on a big screen. It's just like that. Yeah, you get that once you get to that level. It's an obvious thing. It's not. Sometimes it's because you're the best drummer in the world, but most of the time it's like, well, how many eyes are on you? And so
Yeah.
now it's how many eyes are on you on the computer. It's you know, and to be honest and fair, the eyes on for me on the computer are older people, and my past videos with Dwight or past videos with Smash Mouth, I'm not sure they got pretty decent amount of views and stuff like that. So that's where mine's coming from, but it's not from me sitting in a room showing off and showing how wonderful I am. It's just like, well, I'm not that kind of drummer. I'm a singer-songwriter drummer, and that's not necessarily something that drummers want to sit and listen to, but
Right.
singer-songwriters do. They want to hear like, what are you doing with Dwight? It's like, oh, okay, I like that. Why don't you come play on my record or that type of stuff? So, anybody that's trying to do it, just be honest with yourself, and if you think you want to be with a certain company and it's not right, all right, move, try something else, see what you got, see what other companies can offer, and see who is willing to do something and learn what it's like to be at a smaller level and until something happens and you break and you're at a bigger level, and then everybody's like, well, now you're at a bigger level, let's do something.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Especially hearing about the journey of it all because the endorsement game is such a slippery slope for a lot of these young guys. I also in my younger teens and actually upper teens too, before social media was a thing. Yeah, man, it was such a different climate of how you had to learn about the drummers you liked. And basically, the better you played around town is how you got to a bigger gig, where the better you played on bigger gigs is how you got to even bigger gigs. And it was always this thing where people had to actually see you play in order to do that. And endorsements used to be something that we just worked really hard until it came, not something that we went seeking, at the NAM show, right? Like everybody's favorite thing to do at the NAM show is go tap the drums and say, "Yeah, I want those. Send me those." And it's like it doesn't quite work like that. But I think that is great that man, you legitimately, from what I'm hearing, like you had the most organic evolution of like, yo, man, this is just how the story rolled without necessarily trying to enforce this thing. It just happened because you were working hard and you were playing drums and you were killing it, you know?
Well, for people to get an idea of the timeline, I graduated high school in '79, started going to North Texas around 1980, 1981. So, I was studying drums, during that time. And at that time, if you went to North Texas, for instance, Greg Bissonette, everybody knows who Greg is. It's like, so you go to North Texas and you meet Greg Bissonette and you're like, oh, this is great. I met Greg Bissonette. And if you're in the 1 o'clock, you might get the Maynard Ferguson gig, and then you move on from that. There was an obvious pathway to get to major bands and to get to your career to where you can pay rent and hopefully eventually pay a mortgage and buy a house and
Yeah.
just do normal people stuff. And there was a pathway, and it most of us, it's organic. Most of us don't get that one lucky break that just, I mean, it just didn't happen for me. But you have, I think Greg Bisson, that's a perfect example of an organic guy that just played his ass off and just continued to have great relationships with people, great relationships with the musicians that he worked with, and the companies that he worked with, and did it and found out, found his path, and how he's using the the endorsement world in the case of being able to do the next level stuff where you're doing endorsements and you're actually helping with the production of the drums, and that type of
Yeah.
stuff.
And
You, you
shout out to Greg Bissonette, man. Greg, I just saw Greg last week. Funny enough, I saw Greg in Los Angeles on Friday, man. He is still as sweet of a human as he's always been. And it's funny because I also got to see the late great Don Familero's wife.
yeah.
Um, he
Oh,
was
okay.
there. Yeah, it was really cool. Jules with the sessions was there, and it was this thing in LA called Music Pro that actually KHS Chris Hankins sent me to. He was like, "Yo, man, you got to go do this thing," and it was really cool because it goes to show, man. Hearing you say Greg's name in the regard that you say it for a person that I just had a conversation with 5 days ago, and he just interviewed me 5 days ago for the event that we were at, man. I'm like, there was something in the water back then that you guys were drinking that created not only these great musicians, but also just a group of great humans, and have so much information to give and so much wisdom to give all of us who are still figuring it out, one day at a time. But yo, so high school, I want to know what high school was like for Mitch Marine. What was the music climate in like senior year of high school, getting ready to graduate? I think you said 79. So you graduated
Yeah.
high school. What's the music climate for a drummer in 79 graduating high school?
Well, it wasn't very good. Let's just say that it was in '79, and I was from a small town in Illinois, in the middle of cornfields, about 10,000 people.
Wow.
So my high school band experience was really not very good at all. I did not get along with the band director. He didn't like me. I didn't like him. So I quit band. But I
Yeah.
did join the Central Illinois Youth Symphony because I was outside of Peoria. And so I was able to audition and play timpani with them. So it was kind of like, well, okay, screw you. I'll do the Central Illinois Youth Symphony, and and I had to work on my reading, and which is, God, that's really a hard thing. If you don't read all the time, it's just like it's a really hard thing to do. I've got a gig coming up, and I'm writing my charts, and I'm like, oh shit, that's right, I got to read it. But anyway, uh, you get lazy sometimes. You're like, yeah, this is a good gig, and then you have to try other things, and you're like, oh shit, I got to work again. But anyway, so it wasn't necessarily great, but I knew what I wanted to do, and I wasn't letting it bother me. And I was always in bands because that was my main thing, was to play drum set, and that was also before the drumline thing got to be a real popular thing. So we had a marching band, but it wasn't any good. And there was certainly no drumline back then. That you know, when you watch that stuff now, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
You watch those videos ever? In fact, Mapex had Atlanta. There's a marching troupe out of Atlanta that I saw were playing Mapex drums. I was like, holy God, I get
Yeah.
lost watching. Again, I love drums. What can I
Special,
say?
special
I just
human.
could watch drums, and I'm 64 and I'm still that way.
Well, the
It's
thing
kind of
is, man,
ridiculous.
you're 64 and your face is lighting up as you're talking about these drums, man.
Well, here, let me tell you how I really consider myself. I consider myself, and I try my best to think of this way, is I'm 16 with 48 years experience. So I try to keep the the excitement of life, the wonder of what's ahead. I try. It's not easy, but I try to think like, hey, there's something new on the horizon. There's something different to do. There's something I haven't done before. It's still there. I still need to be excited about it. And but I've got 48 years of experience that keeps me from making really dumb choices. That
I got you. I got
yeah,
you. I just turned 40, and I'm telling everybody it's the 19th anniversary of my 21st birthday. You know,
yeah.
that's how I'm looking at this thing because I don't want to be called old ever in life. But
Well, I mean, it is what it is. I used to be the youngest person in the band, and now I'm not. Dwight's older than me, but I'm older than everybody else in the band. So now I'm that guy. Whatever, it's all good. I don't care. But again, just trying to say, I'm just keep my brain going. Like, what did 16-year-old Mitch? Like if I was ever complaining, I'd like, okay, go back in time, tell 16-year-old Mitch that you're complaining about this and just see what 16-year-old man is. He's like, fuck, you know,
yeah, man. No, I
you're,
totally understand, man. And I
you're,
see.
you're living your dream, and there's can be no complaints.
And that's the thing I was gonna also ask about because now we're talking about like and I love that, man. Like if you can go back and tell 60 years you're complaining about this, like that's actually incredible stuff, man. But like living the dream, I see we're getting later on time, so I really want to get this particular thing too, because with this legacy series, I want to always make sure that the younger community, the 16s, the 15s, all the younger drummers out there who are watching this, how do they, in your opinion, as young drummers who are starting off their legacy journey, how do they approach living out their dreams? What was the Mitch way of, yo, this is my dream. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. Any advice you have to give in that regard?
Study and practice. Learn how to read. Study and practice. Take lessons from as many different drummers as you possibly can. If you find a great one, stick with them for a while, and then move, and then take other lessons from another great drummer. Uh, it did me well to go to school, but I'm not saying school's right for everybody. But there are certain towns where you can play all the time, and there's one town in particular that if you're a young person and you want to play, okay, move to Nashville because you're gonna. There are so many gigs. There's last I was there just a while back. We did the New Year's Eve TV show thing, and I just every time I go there, I'm just like, how many bands are playing
Yeah,
right now?
yeah.
400? Like, and I don't think I'm exaggerating. Henry would know, but I don't think I'm exaggerating. And this is like, oh my God. So go where you can play, and play with as many people as you possibly can. If you find a magic formula, go with it. But play, practice, eat some good food, hang out, have some fun with friends, listen to records. Well, okay. Do people not still do that? I
I'm
used
about to
to
say, yeah,
at,
do we know record time?
at
Yeah.
North Texas. We used to get together all the time to just listen to. I mean, you just get together with your friends and just listen. And what's he got? What's he got?
I think
He's pulling
Henry's
up
I
the
got
record.
that
right here,
I
vinyl.
mean,
but
you
that might
just go.
well. Sorry,
I
Henry's.
mean, but it's just. I mean, but that's the point. That is the exact point right there. It's just like you listen. So get a Spotify playlist and pass it along to your friends, and make your friends give you a Spotify playlist. You know, check out new stuff, check out old stuff. You know, and you might not like it now, but 20 years later, you might go, oh, yeah, I guess it is good.
Yeah. And that's good stuff, man. And I can't say thank you for that enough because I think sometimes in today's society with social media being so much of a thing, we don't get a chance to hear the voice of legendary guys like yourself who've had a career, sustained a career over all these years, man. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And we want to always make sure that we praise you for that because that's super, super dope and super, super cool, man. So I see the time is the time. I want to just make sure I say thank you so much for doing this
Oh,
because
thank you
all
for
those
asking me.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's incredible for the folks out there who don't know why this is such a thing to have the Legacy Series. I'll say it again. Mapex as a brand has been through a lot of transitions and evolutions, but the drummers that played the drums and the drummers that created this bond of the Mapex family are the ones who I think we never really get to hear a lot from. And to talk to Mitch and to hear Mitch's story of why he even started playing the drums in the first place and why he still plays the drums today is the actual meaning of legacy. It is the epitome of legacy. And Mitch, you have shown us that. You have displayed it and put it in the most plain form, which is by leading through example. So we appreciate that. Shout out to Mapex and all the great people there. And all you folks that are watching this Legacy series, please make sure you comment on it. Tell us your thoughts on it. Tell us some questions. If you want to find Mitch, how do they find you? Do you have a social media?
Yeah. Good luck. I'm on Instagram. I don't do much.
Okay. So
come to a show.
There you go. Come to a show, and I can be your Instagram.
I mean,
worry about it.
If somebody, what is it called, DMing? I mean, so I guess I'll keep an eye out on my I'll keep an eye out on my Instagram. It's Mitch.Marine. If I see something, I'll have one of the young people show me how the DMs.
So all the people watching, we just got to get Mitch so many messages that his phone just keeps
just blows up. It's like, yeah, you old fart. Come on, get out of there.
Nah, man. Listen. You are a legend. You're proving you to be a legend. Legends don't need social media. Social media needs legends. So that is something that is a fact. And yeah, man, thank you so much, Mitch, for being here. All you folks out there watching, thank you so much for watching Mapex Legacy Series. Until the next time, y'all be safe and be kind. Peace.
Go out and listen to a Mapex drum set. You'll be happy.
There you go.